Here's the beginning of a story that I started about 2 years ago. It's called Lethal Tender. It was cold, but not very cold. Martin put his hands in his pockets and walked. He walked past the big diner beyond the cul-de-sac. He'd taken the cut-through by the water tower. He almost went in the diner, but he had $12 in his wallet, or maybe even only 11, and 50 cents in his pocket. He was hungry. He decided to go to McDonald's. It was across the street. He hated crossing the street, with its 3 lanes going east and 3 going west. You always had to stand on the sliver-thin strip of grass in the middle for 5 minutes or so after getting halfway across. He'd have to stand shivering in the just too cold air as the people zipping by glimpsed him. Martin stood at the corner, the diner behind him to his right and 6 lanes of traffic ahead. A chrome button on a metal post was there, but he didn't push it. He let the traffic stop according to the natural order. He hated being seen pushing the button. "Die!" someone shouted. The light changed. Once inside McDonald's, while trying to interpret the menu above the counter and not noticing anything which looked as if it were just a hamburger, it occurred to Martin that this was Nan, of Nan and Dan's fame. I'm going to read this again. Once inside McDonald's, while trying to interpret the menu above the counter and not noticing anything which looked as if it were just a hamburger, it occurred to Martin that this was Nan, of Nan and Dan fame's favorite McDonald's. He actually twitched when he realized he knew this. He had never met her, and had only heard her voice once or twice as it came out of the phone his wife was using. But he knew that Nan got her Egg McMuffins from this McDonald's because Jane had said so. "The one across from Moussaka Diner," Jane had said. Martin had thought less of Nan for going to McDonald's instead of a good breakfast place like Moussaka, and even less of her for telling her friends how fast and friendly the McDonald's across from Moussaka was. It was as if Nan were a consumer advocate, steering people toward the faceless corporations whenever... "Sir?" He looked up. The girl at the counter was taking somebody's order. "Sir?" He looked to his right. "Over here." Martin turned his head. A woman in a long puffy coat was looking at him. She stood in front of the little Ronald McDonald bench. She would have fallen into Ronald McDonald's lap if she'd stepped back. Without moving closer to Martin and barely moving her lips, she said, "Can you get me a Happy Meal?" He knew she meant it. In the last 6 months, a woman at the train station had asked him to get her a box of Roy Rogers chicken, and a woman in town had asked him to get her a roast beef sandwich. The woman at the train station had added, "I'll get you one next time." The woman in town had also said, "I'll get you one next time." Before he could answer the woman in front of the Ronald McDonald bench, she said it. "I'll get you one next time." "Mr. Benson," somebody was saying. Martin looked around but didn't see anybody. The counter girl was still taking the order of the person in front of him, and the woman in front of the Ronald McDonald bench was still looking at him. "Just a Happy Meal," she said. Martin looked to see if perhaps a threatening figure lurked nearby. He'd done that the other 2 times and hadn't seen such a person. What kind of ploy was this? Women never used to come up to him asking for food. The beeping of the McDonald's microwaves distorted the words of Mr. Benson. Martin looked around again. He'd had his ears boxed about 20 years before, about 3 one morning. He was not always sure where sounds were coming from. "Someone's calling me," he said to the Ronald McDonald bench woman. "Do you hear? Don't go." "I'm not going anywhere." "You can answer your phone later." "No one's calling my phone. I don't have a cell phone. Someone in here is calling my name." "Are you going to get me a Happy Meal?" "Sir? Sir?" It was the girl behind the counter calling him sir now. He ordered the Happy Meal, and when he heard the Ronald McDonald bench woman saying Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal, he thought of asking her if that was in addition to the Happy Meal or a refinement of the Happy Meal order. But he didn't ask. He did say to the counter girl, "And a Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal." When it turned out the cost was $1.77 more than he had, he canceled his fries. The girl handed him a coffee and told him to wait. He listened to the microwaves beeping and sensed the Ronald McDonald bench woman waiting. "Mr. Benson?" He turned around and only saw people waiting in line, the Ronald McDonald bench woman and the bench itself. He turned toward the counter and took the bag. He went up to the Ronald McDonald bench woman. "Here." "Not here," she said. "Outside." She led the way and even held the door for him. "Around the corner," she said. It was clear she didn't want to be spotted by anyone in authority at Mickey D's. Mr. Benson, running toward him, was Leah, Nan and Dan's daughter. Jane had pointed her out to him once at the mall. "Can I have that bag?" said the Ronald McDonald benchwoman. He handed it to her, and she darted around the corner. Hello," said Martin. "She's a crook," said Leah. "What?" "She always asks my mother for an Egg McMuffin." "Mister," the woman was calling. "Didn't you hear me in there?" Leah said. "Mister," said the woman. "Thank you, Leah. You're Leah, right?" "I tried to warn you." "Thanks. Why don't you go back in?" "This is 2 Happy Meals," said the woman. "Bye, Mr. Benson." "I know," said Martin. "I just wanted one. Keep them." "But I told you I'd get you one next time. Don't worry about it." "I can't get you 2. Come around the corner." "I'm not coming around the corner. Keep the Happy Meal and the Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal." He took a sip of his coffee. "I only wanted Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal," said the woman. "Come around the corner." Martin pivoted. Rounding the corner, he said, "All I wanted was fries and a coffee, and all I got was this lousy coffee." He threw the cup down. Coffee splashed on the Ronald McDonald benchwoman's long, puffy coat. "Now I don't have this lousy coffee. You have Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal, and you can go stomp on plain old Happy Meal if you want." A car honked. The woman looked over. The car honked 2 more times. "All right," shouted the woman. "Give the Happy Meals," said Martin. The woman reached into the bag. "Both meals," Martin said. The woman handed him a Happy Meal. "Not just non-Chicken McNuggets Happy Meal, everything." "I told you I didn't want 2 sandwiches." The car honked. Martin grabbed the bag, ripped it from the woman's hands, and ran toward the street. With a Happy Meal in his left hand and the bag in his right, he breached a hedge and stood in front of an idling car. Martin waved the bag around. He waved the burger. Apple crisps fell out of the bag. He stood a second and placed the bag on the hood. He dropped the burger on the ground. The Ronald McDonald benchwoman was suddenly there, opening the passenger door. Martin moved away from the front of the car. The bag of Chicken McNuggets slid along the hood as the car took off. "No cash today," Martin shouted. "No cash at this machine." He walked into the street and waved his fist at the car's taillights. "Grifters!" He turned then and heard a horrifying screech. A car swerved and stopped. Skid marks formed a half circle, and the car was facing the divider. "You want to get killed?" a woman screamed at him. Martin was standing on the side of the road again. "There's no traffic," said Martin. "I could have killed you." Martin waved her on. "There's no traffic. Go before you get hit." "I am traffic," said the woman. She drove away, and Martin watched as she ran a red light. She could kill someone, he thought. He thought about how dangerous she was. He stood looking at the apple crisps at his feet and realized his heart was pounding. An uninterrupted honking sound caused Martin to look up. Across the divider, the car with the Ronald McDonald benchwoman was zipping by. The honking stopped as the car turned left, then left again. It was heading his way.